Let's bring in Scott Bauer, the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy. He's joining us for a look at a few he's got his eye on and thinks we should as well. Scott, welcome. Thanks for giving us part of your Thursday afternoon as we gear up for the jobs report tomorrow. Thanks, and it's good to have you with us, Scott. First, let's talk about the jobs numbers as we lead into the non-farm payrolls tomorrow. Seemed like the data today, challenged job cut report, the jobless claims, pretty good after a bit of a disappointment in terms of the ADP yesterday.
Yeah, it was very good, especially after coming off ADP yesterday. But you know what? Over the last, 4, 6, 8 months, what we've seen in reality versus ADP, they've been pretty far off. So I always take ADP with a grain of salt. The number today, great. Lowest number we've seen since March of 2020. Definitely moving in the right direction. But you know what? It's not a market mover. Tomorrow could be, though. I actually don't think that the number tomorrow is going to move the market that much unless we see a massive outlier. And the massive outlier to me would have to be to the downside, a bad number to really make the market move. And because if we get, go ahead.
I was going to say, in which direction do you think, how would the market respond to that?
Yeah, I think if we get a bad number, a really low number, the market responds very negatively because maybe now, again, that's some reinforcement that, with everything going on with the Delta variant, maybe the economy has topped out. So I think the risk to the overall market is to a bad print on the downside.
Okay, I mean, many could argue the same in terms of the fact that we're sitting here at all-time highs, so it does appear as if the risk is to see some potential volatility, a bit of a correction here, and maybe that would be the catalyst. Scott, one of the things I've been watching and pointing out to our viewers is strength in the NASDAQ and the ES. I mean, these trends have been pretty well defined. I'm not alone, it goes without saying, in terms of pointing these out to everyone. But Scott, one of the things I've also been pointing out is how the FANG stocks haven't really been participating along the same lines. Everybody's dialed in on the Russell, large caps, the Dow, how they haven't been. But I've been noticing the Facebooks, well, the Googles and the Facebooks have, but Netflix, Amazon, not as much so. You've got your eye on Google yesterday up to 29.36, spot 4.1. Coming off today, there's some DOJ concerns here. Bloomberg reporting that they're preparing an antitrust lawsuit against Google and the advertising technology.
I don't want to minimize anything like that, Ben. Anytime the Fed is investigating a public company, that's always cause for concern. However, we've kind of seen this story before, and I don't want to say that this is the little boy that cried wolf, but we have seen this story before, and history kind of tells us it's a buying opportunity. Now, Google, it might be a little bit different here because we've seen such a massive run up in Google, especially in the last couple of weeks. This stock's up, 10%, $250 or so in the last couple of weeks. So, I would probably wait for maybe a little bit more of a sell-off. But for the longer term, I would not let this headline really inhibit me to, if I wanted to be bullish, if I wanted to still, take a position to the upside, I wouldn't let this deter me from doing so.
Well-defined trend environment to the upside, no rejection of these upper levels yet. Very similar to what we're seeing in terms of the indices. Google, as you mentioned, has managed to shrug off some of the concerns, and it has been characteristic of the trend, as you mentioned, their ability to do so. Let's move on. Speaking of on the move and, attracting some attention here, we also have ticker symbol COST. I've got Costco to looks like $461.44 today. They're currently trading up on the day by about 0.5%. They reported some August numbers. They were pretty good. Net sales of $15.75 billion, an increase of 16.2% from the same period last year.
I'm a trader. I'm not an investor. However, this one, and I always beat the drum on this one for the longest time. This is one that's one of my core holdings. And this is one that I think you just have to be in this stock for the long term. Is it a trade that, we're going to get a pop in the near term? Maybe. I usually add on when we come down to a significant, support level, when there's a bit of a sell-off. I think Costco is just one of those core holdings you have to have for a long time. They got a couple of upgrades this morning. Sales numbers were good. We're coming into the, end of third quarter, beginning of fourth quarter, which is a great time of year for them. Option market today actually is surprisingly pretty split. Based on this optimistic news that's out there, you'd think that there'd be really heavy call volume, but call put volume is actually pretty split today.
All right, Scott, is there a key support area that you're watching there in terms of if you were to see a pullback? I noticed the a brief blip down that they saw. It looks like a big candle to the downside on the 19th of August, but they found support around 440 there. That could be a level to watch.
I was going to tell you 435, 440. That is absolutely, the next big place I would get in. But again, on any sell-off, this is the kind of stock, in my opinion, you buy a little bit here, you buy a little bit there, and you just accumulate it. Okay,
longer term position here, very bullish sentiment tied to Costco. Fourth quarter reported net sales of $61.4 billion. That was an increase of 17.4% from the year earlier. Net sales of $192.1 billion for the fiscal year, an increase of 17.7% during the same period last year. How about Broadcom, ticker symbol AVGO, earnings set to be released today. That's post-market, today on the close. We're talking about estimates for $6.88 a share for earnings and $6.76 billion, it looks like, in terms of revenue. What are you going to be watching for in this one, Scott, in terms of ticker symbol AVGO?
Those are some blowout numbers, and I don't have any hesitation that they can beat those numbers. But I am a little bit cautious that the market is going to react positively to that.
Okay.
However, Broadcom's another one. I think on any sell-off, you got to be ready to buy the dip here. And what I'm looking at here, Ben, the 50-day moving average, which has been some really, really solid support, not too far away. It's only about $15, $16 or so below where we're trading right now, which also happens to coincide with the market maker expected move on the earnings print today. So I really am not doing anything ahead of earnings here. I sold a couple downside put spreads because I don't mind owning the stock lower. So going in, I'm not so enthusiastic going into the print, but if we see that dip a little bit lower here, I definitely want to be in.
Okay, I'm looking at the 50-day moving average here, coming into play around 480 right now, just below where we are. Scott, thanks for sharing your thoughts on a few stocks that you've got your eye on. I think we should as well as we head into the close today and into tomorrow's jobs report. Scott Bauer joining us this afternoon, the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy. We're going to take a quick break. Stay right where you are. When we come back,